chocolate. Sweet, comforting, irresistible. But what if we told you it wasn't always meant to be enjoyed? Long before candy bars and desserts, chocolate was bitter, sacred, and powerful, a drink of gods, warriors, and kings. It crossed oceans, built empires, fueled desire, and today hides a darker truth behind its sweetness. This is the story of chocolate, and not all of it is sweet. Before chocolate became a symbol of comfort, celebration, and indulgence, it was something entirely different. There was no sweetness, no dessert, and no luxury attached to it. Chocolate did not come wrapped in colorful paper or melt gently in your mouth. Instead, it began as a bitter ritual drink, deeply rooted in survival, belief, and power. More than 4,000 years ago, in the heart of Central America, ancient civilizations discovered the cacao tree growing wild in the tropical forests. They learned to harvest its pods, ferment the beans, dry them under the sun, and grind them by hand. The process was long and demanding, but the result was considered sacred. The ground cacao was mixed with corn flour, water, and chili peppers to create a thick, foamy beverage. It was not consumed for pleasure, but for energy, endurance, and spiritual connection. This drink was reserved for moments that mattered: religious ceremonies, royal gatherings, and preparations for war. Its bitterness symbolized strength. Its foam represented life. To drink cacao was to take part in something divine. The people of Central America believed that cacao was a gift from the gods, meant to awaken both the body and the mind. Chocolate, in its earliest form, was not a treat for everyone. It was a symbol of status, power, and purpose. Long before it became a global obsession, chocolate was already shaping cultures, rituals, and identities. And this ancient beginning set the foundation for a journey that would carry cacao far beyond the jungles of Central America, across oceans, through empires, and into the world we know today. As cacao became woven into daily life, it grew into something far greater than a simple drink. For the great civilizations of Central America, chocolate was power-made liquid. Recent archaeological research reveals traces of cacao residue in ceremonial vessels dating back thousands of years, confirming that it played a central role in religious and political life. Among the Maya, cacao was believed to be a divine gift from the feathered serpent god, Cacao. Hieroglyphs carved into stone and painted on ancient pottery depict rulers and priests offering cacao to the gods and to one another, sealing alliances and honoring sacred events. Chocolate was present at births, marriages, and funerals, marking life's most important transitions. For the Aztecs, cacao went even further. New studies of Aztec economic systems show that cacao beans functioned as one of the earliest standardized currencies. Taxes were paid in cacao. Soldiers were rewarded with it. A single turkey, historians estimate, could cost hundreds of cacao beans. To control cacao was to control wealth, power, and survival itself. Chocolate was also believed to possess mystical and physical strength. Warriors drank it before battle, convinced it granted endurance and sharpened the mind. Priests consumed it during rituals to communicate with the divine. Its bitterness was not a flaw. It was proof of its potency. Unlike common foods, cacao was restricted. Ordinary people rarely consumed it, while rulers and elites displayed their power through elaborate chocolate ceremonies. In these societies, chocolate was not indulgence, it was authority. Long before gold and silver defined empires, cacao shaped economies, belief systems, and hierarchies. It was sacred, controlled, and feared. And as these civilizations rose and fell, the value of chocolate remained unquestioned, waiting for the moment when the outside world would discover it and change its destiny forever. In 1519, chocolate left its sacred homeland and entered a world that would change it forever. When Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés arrived at the court of Emperor Montezuma in Tenochtitlan, he did not understand what he was witnessing, but he immediately recognized power. Montezuma was said to drink dozens of cups of cacao each day, served in golden vessels, reserved only for royalty and warriors. To the Europeans, this dark, bitter liquid was strange, unsettling, and misunderstood. It was not sweet. It was not familiar. Yet it carried prestige, mystery, and promise. When ships returned to Spain loaded with cacao beans, chocolate began its transformation, not through reverence, but through exploitation. Early missionaries warned that chocolate inflamed desire and corrupted the soul, branding it sinful and dangerous. At the same time, European physicians prescribed it as medicine, claiming it cured fatigue, stomach illness, and melancholy. chocolate became both temptation and remedy, forbidden and fashionable. Its bitterness initially repelled many, but sugar changed everything. Sweetened with cane sugar, harvested through brutal colonial labor, and flavored with vanilla, chocolate became irresistible to the Spanish elite. What was once sacred was now consumed for pleasure. Aristocratic homes displayed ornate chocolate cups as symbols of status, while the cost of production was hidden far from sight. Behind every cup was suffering. Plantations expanded. Indigenous populations were forced to labor. When they could no longer endure, enslaved Africans were transported across the Atlantic to replace them. Chocolate, once a drink of gods, became a product of conquest. As Europe fell in love with chocolate, its origins were stripped of meaning. Ritual became routine. Sacred became commodity. And the sweetness that Europeans embraced was built on bitterness they chose not to see. Chocolate had crossed the ocean, and with it, the shadows of empire followed. By the early 19th century, chocolate was no longer just crossing oceans, it was entering the age of machines. What had once been slow, sacred, and handmade was about to be transformed by iron, steam, and industry. And with that transformation came power, profit, and a new kind of control. In 1828, a quiet but revolutionary invention changed everything. Dutch chemist Coenraad van Houten developed a mechanical cocoa press capable of separating cocoa butter from cocoa solids. For the first time, chocolate could be refined, standardized, and produced on a massive scale. The bitter liquid of ancient rituals was broken down into components, engineered, reshaped, and optimized for mass consumption. This innovation paved the way for solid chocolate, and soon, factories replaced ceremonial spaces. Grinding stones were traded for steel rollers. Human hands were replaced by machines. Chocolate was no longer crafted, it was manufactured. Then came another transformation. In Switzerland, chocolatier Daniel Peter combined cocoa with powdered milk, creating milk chocolate. Softer, sweeter, and more addictive than anything before it, chocolate became irresistible. It was no longer reserved for kings and elites. It was marketed to families, children, and the working class. But progress came at a cost. As demand exploded, so did the need for cacao. Industrial success depended on endless raw materials, and plantations expanded deeper into tropical regions. Labor became cheaper. Lives became expendable. Factories in Europe thrived, while suffering intensified thousands of miles away. The distance between consumption and consequence grew wider. Chocolate became affordable, accessible, and comforting, while the systems behind it grew invisible. The Industrial Revolution did not just change how chocolate was made. It changed what chocolate meant. What was once sacred became mechanical. What was once rare became routine. And what was once bitter in taste became bitter in truth. Today, chocolate is everywhere. It fills supermarket shelves, holiday celebrations, and childhood memories. It is marketed as comfort, love, and reward. But behind this familiar sweetness lies a reality few consumers ever see. As global demand for chocolate continues to rise, cacao farming has become concentrated near the equator, particularly in West Africa. Countries like Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana now supply the majority of the world's cacao. Yet, modern investigations and human rights reports reveal a troubling truth behind this success. Millions of small-scale farmers live in extreme poverty, earning only a fraction of the profits generated by the global chocolate industry. To survive, many farms rely on child labor and forced labor. Independent research estimates that over 2 million children are involved in hazardous cacao work, carrying heavy loads, using sharp tools, and working long hours instead of attending school. Despite public commitments from major chocolate corporations, progress has been slow. Complex supply chains make accountability difficult, and responsibility is often shifted or delayed. The distance between the consumer and the farm allows suffering to remain invisible. Chocolate's image, however, remains untouched. Advertising continues to associate it with romance, joy, and indulgence. Its colonial past, industrial exploitation, and modern human cost are rarely part of the story being told. Yet chocolate did not become powerful by accident. It carries centuries of history, sacred rituals, imperial conquest, industrial ambition, and human sacrifice. Understanding this does not mean rejecting chocolate. It means seeing it clearly. Because every product we consume tells a story, and some stories demand to be acknowledged. Chocolate has traveled from sacred rituals to global factories, from gods and kings to supermarket shelves. Its story is rich, complex, and uncomfortable, just like the world that shaped it. The next time you unwrap a chocolate bar, remember, sweetness has a history, and choices have consequences. If this story made you think, share it. Because awareness is where change begins. If stories like this matter to you, follow the channel and subscribe, because the truth deserves to be told.